Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are located on the planet Earth. It is time for PreMarket PulseScan with yours truly, Dex the Algo Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from PulseWaveTrading.com, home of the world famous PulseWave price trigger reports that we place in your hand each and every trading day. All right, so today is Take Back Friday. Normally on Take Back Fridays, you can expect markets that's been down all week to get a little bump for profit taking ahead of the weekend and vice versa. Then there are also these moments when the markets decide they're not going to do either and they'll just pause and do absolutely nothing. So we shall see. So far, it's been quiet, and the markets, for the most part, have done absolutely nothing, with few exceptions. So without any further ado, why don't we jump right into it and look at these overnight markets. All right, so we got the Dow futures up 75 points at 26,292. We got the NASDAQ 100 up 109.25 points at 10,903.25. And we got the E-mini S&P 500 up 11 at 3259.5. We got the Russell My Hustle down 5 at 1485.6. The mighty Bitcoin Futures Composite Index is up $140, trading at 11,510. After hitting almost 12,000 in the overnight, we topped out at 11,590. We got nat gas up 2 pennies at $1.85. Crude oil still $11 to $40 handle, trading up 57 cents at $40.50 a barrel. The long bond is no longer the strong bond at the moment. It is down 12/30 seconds, trading at 181.30. That's 181 and 30 seconds. Gold futures is exploding a little bit this morning, up $21, trading at $1,988 even an ounce after topping out at $2,005.40 an ounce in the overnight market. Silver back above 24, trading up 86 cents at $24.22 respectively. US dollar index is guess where? In the 92 handle as predicted. It is off 6 pips at 92.96 after dipping as low as 92.54 in the overnight market. Looking at our currencies, you got the euro dollar up 5 pips at 118.51. Pound sterling up 67 at 131.58. Aussie up 2 pips at 71.81. Canadian dollar is off 6 pips at 134.14. Euro yen up 51 pips at 124.57. Dollar yen up 49 pips at 105.22. Kiwi New Zealand dollar is up 36 at 66.66. And we got soybeans up 3.5 at 891 3/4. We got corn flat at 326 3/4. And wheat is up 2 at 531.5. And that is our overnight market snapshot. Click, click, click. All right. So what do we got going on? Well, in case you don't know, the earnings were right smack dab in the earnings season. The tech sector is exploding, beating earnings. All your big tech names, including Apple, all of them are just blowing past their reports. Even doing, a shutdown period, it looks remarkable that a lot of them are making a lot of money. Apple sold mad iPhones doing this because people took their stimulus checks and they took the extra $600 a month. A month they were getting, and they were going in and they were paying, I'm sorry, was it $600 a week? I think it is, whatever. They took the extra $600 and was buying tech goodies and gadgets. So they beat on their earnings and everybody is happy and go happy, go lucky, blah, blah, blah. But we need to talk about something very important here, and we're going to get to it. But on the table today is expiration of that extra 600, and looking at foreclosure and eviction moratoriums across the board going away as well. And in addition to that, if that wasn't enough, breaking news. The President of the United States talked about a second shutdown, and get ready, hope you're sitting down, talked about suspending the November election. Yes, indeedy, feed the needy. I told you that way back. I said, get ready and expect that possibility. And here we are. The president said it out of his own mouth. So we are very, very much looking at standing in the middle of some interesting times. More overnight market news. The Eurozone GDP shrinks at the fastest rate in history, losing 12.1% in the second quarter. Spain was hardest hit by the scam pandemic, and Europe suffering a 18.5% decline compared to the previous quarter. French GDP also dropped at a record pace, contracting 14% in the second quarter, the latest European economy to reveal its scam pandemic pain. The figures reflect the painful economic state that COVID-19 outbreak left France in. British bank NatWest swings to a second quarter loss of $1.7 billion as income tumbles and impairment charges soar. CEO Alison Rose said the scam pandemic significantly impacted the bank's first half performance. TikTok owner ByteDance may reportedly scrap plans for a blockbuster global IPO and just list its Chinese business at home instead. The tech giant was initially planning to IPO in New York or Hong Kong. The creator of the first pure play space ETF told us 3 reasons why now is the perfect time to invest in the arena, including his bet on companies already raking in revenues from that particular space. The same force that supercharged blockchain, cloud computing, and other major technologies will drive the space investing boom, says Andrew Shannon. 200 plus money managers pay thousands to set eyes on Jim Osman's stock buy list. And Osman shared 3 companies he's betting on, including a Peloton competitor that could go public this year. Whatever. Portfolio manager Jason Tauber is outstripping the market's returns in 2020. He says these 3 high growth companies have hidden assets that could make them far more valuable than most investors believe. Why are you hiding assets? Tauber's disruptors are big winners in 2020, and he aims to keep it that way by finding companies with promising but overlooked businesses. Whatever. Global stocks are mixed. In Europe, Germany's DAX rose 0.5%. Britain's FTSE 100 was about flat, and the Euro Stoxx 50 rose 0.5%. In Asia, China's Shanghai Composite rose 0.7%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng fell 0.4%, and Japan's Nikkei fell 2.8% at the close. In the U.S., we got stocks up about 0.8%. All right, more big names in the earnings landscape expected today. That's Merck, ExxonMobil, AbbVie, Dominion Energy, Colgate-Palmolive, and Fiat Chrysler are some of the highlights. On the economic front, data on U.S. personal income and spending is due. All right, so another full day as far as after the closing bell for earnings is concerned. So you can expect that. We have been all over the place with all types of news coming out here and there. But like I said, I still haven't seen anybody doing any type of coverage dealing with what the Fed chairman said about BlackRock. Like they didn't hear it. They're deaf. They can't hear too well. Or they weren't paying attention because they were typing on their smartphones or whatever. All we know is that the biggest news piece in financial history was swept over. No one questioned him when he said it. No one asked further insight when he said it. You had about 12 people being given the chance to ask questions. And no one said a thing about that mammoth, monumental statement that came out of his mouth. I'm just flabbergasted. I don't understand. I don't see how you can do that. I don't understand. I don't understand how. Anyway, we're talking about now a second shutdown coming. It's just, we're just in such a time in history that just befuddles the mind. I don't understand how anyone can live here on this planet and not understand what's going on, not be moved or perplexed about the things we're seeing. Right now, Kanye West is the poster boy for censorship. He tried to speak some truths about the family he married into, and now they're saying he's unstable and insane, and everyone is agreeing that he's crazy because, once again, he spoke out. And that's not the only thing. There are a lot of people trying to break away, trying to speak out, and no one is the wiser. We've come to a point in human history where even if you tell the truth, no one will believe you. No one. We've come to a place in time that even if people see something, they still won't believe that either. You can see something and not believe it. You can hear something and not believe it. The spirit of deception is so prevalent throughout society that it's come to a point where seeing is no longer believing, neither is hearing. Even if somebody presents you with a truckload of evidence, even the evidence will be explained away. You can catch an event on video footage with audio, and there will be someone who is paid to debunk even the video. The same videos that people use to convict people in a court of law can now be debunked and explained away to the point where no one even cares. This is crazy, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot believe what I am seeing and hearing, but it is all true. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's an interesting time, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I'm still trying to understand it. I just don't get how a people, and not just the United States, but period, I don't understand how we could get this far where the spirit of deception is just so overwhelming to the point where it even seems futile to even speak against it and to even try to expose it anymore. The more you expose, the stronger the spirit of deception gets over the minds of the people, to the point where they don't hear you. And if they do hear you, they don't hear you. They don't believe you. They don't understand, overstand, none of it. All right? They just don't. And it's like talking to a grapefruit. People have been so thoroughly psychologically neutered that it don't even matter. It don't even matter. Doesn't matter what you do, say, present. They're not hearing you. They automatically, it's like their brain shuts down and they can't hear nor understand anything that you are saying to them. They just can't. It's almost like it's not even their fault. They just can't. This is where we are now. It's just crazy. And I have to say, man, once again, we had the most epic FOMC of all time. Of all time. And it has gone unnoticed. No one is speaking or saying a word about it. The mainstream media is even mute on it. Bloomberg covered it live. And still, where are all the financial channels on YouTube that claim to be alternative media? Where are they? I don't see anyone talking about this. Is it because they truly don't understand economics at the end of the day? Is it because they don't understand how the markets work at the end of the day? I don't know. I don't know. I don't have the answer for that one. I do not have the answer on that one. I have to admit it. I don't have the answer. I don't know how and why they're able to do what they do. I just know that they do. All right, there's your opening bell for those of you that need to handle some business. As you know, 9 times out of 10, I do not put on new positions on a Friday. Fridays are used for profit taking if you can do so. Besides that, I don't do it. There's a small, slim chance of the time that I will do that, depending on the situation. But this week was not that situation. This was a Fed week. Generally, during Fed weeks, the markets do not move normally. Typically, they don't do anything until after the announcement. So it becomes very difficult, if not impossible, to catch certain things otherwise. With that being said, let's talk about a few things, talking about deception, talking about silencing anyone who is considered opposition. Remember, we talked about what truth and censorship really is. Censorship is not about shutting the voice of those speaking truth. True censorship and at the scientific level of what it is, it's about building walls around the truth so that people seeking it can't get to it, so they don't have access to that truth. All right? That's why when people come forward and we have whistleblowers, no one believes them because a wall has been placed around the truth. They don't care about truth being spoken as long as you don't believe it. And if they can just cast that seed of doubt, then they don't have to worry about you. It used to be when a person would speak out, you had to silence them, you had to kill them. Not anymore. You can let them live. You just let them live. And then when it becomes too annoying for you, the way you do is that's when you begin to go to the next step, which is the physical silencing. And not really physical silencing, but you start adding more layers and barriers around that wall of truth. Case in point, when they took off a lot of channels in social media like Alex Jones and people like that, notice that they didn't use the old style where they just assassinate people like Alex Jones or whoever that they don't like. No, what they do now is they let them live, and they just put more barriers, more walls around you getting access to the truth. So if you take him off of social media, it's harder for you to hear him now. It's harder for you to get the information because they put more walls around you. You have to work harder now to get to the information. That's what they do. That's how they do it. And it's not just limited to the United States. The United Kingdom, the academics, they advocate silencing dissent on climate change and COVID-19. That's right. According to Edge Hill University, professors George Betty and Laura McGuire, the way to prevent people ignoring climate change and COVID-19 messages is to avoid presenting both sides of the argument. Again, put a wall around the truth. Now, see, they're being taught and shown how to do this by professors at prestigious universities. They're helping the government to silence people and to put walls around the truth. Coronavirus shows how to get people to act on climate change. Here's the psychology. July 29th, 2020, 8:22 p.m. Jeff Betty, professor of psychology at Edge Hill University, and Laura McGuire, research fellow in education at Edge Hill University. With COVID-19, the early messaging attempted to circumscribe the nature of the threat. In March, the World Health Organization announced that COVID-19 impacts the elderly and those with pre-existing conditions most severely. Similar statements were made by the United Kingdom's government. A reasonable interpretation of this would be that the virus does not affect young people. But as new clinical data came in, this message was changed to emphasize that the virus could affect people of all ages and doesn't discriminate. The initial positive message for young people also created an optimism bias. This bias is very powerful. We know of various brain mechanisms that can ensure that a positive mood persists. One study found that people tend to have a reduced level of neutral coding of more negative than anticipated information in comparison with more positive than anticipated information in a critical region of the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in decision making. This means that we tend to miss the incoming bad news, and even if we don't, we hardly process it. Did we not start the live talking about the mechanics, the science of censorship? Did we not just finish saying about the power of deception, that it's gotten so bad, it's to the point where, again, even if people hear it, they can't process it. They automatically shut down. To make climate change messages more effective, we need to target these cognitive biases. To prevent temporal and spatial biases, for example, we need a clear message as to why climate change is bad for individuals in their own lives in the here and now, establishing an appropriate effect heuristic. And to prevent optimism bias, we also need to be avoiding presenting both sides of the argument in the messaging. The science tells us that there's only one side. There also needs to be a clear argument as to why recommended sustainable behaviors will work, establishing a different sort of confirmation bias. We also need everyone to get the message, not just some groups. That's an important lesson from COVID-19. There can be no apparent exceptions when it comes to climate change. All right? See, I told you there's a science behind what they're doing. So I guess big tech shutting down dissenting voices on coronavirus was just a test run for what these two professors from Edge Hill University want to inflict on us. Things have sure changed since I went to school. Back in the day, professors argued logic and debate and reason rather than an authoritarian shutdown of dissent. And that's what we have here. I feel like I went to sleep and got stuck in a dream and I can't wake up. I'm in a nightmare and I can't wake up. This is ridiculous. They are studying how to trick you. Technology is real. Okay? They believe that the coronavirus shows them how to get people to act on climate change. There is a science to this. Ladies and gentlemen, we have gone so far down this rabbit hole. It's a wonder if we will ever be able to come out of it. It's crazy. I know it's crazy. I know you don't want to hear it. I know you don't want to believe it. But it's here and it's staring you in the face. What do you do with this kind of information? Well, back in 1983, 1984, we had an ex-KGB agent named Yuri Bezmenov. And he changed his name to something, I forget what it was, some easy name. And he described how the USSR infiltrated nations of the world through the 4 stages of ideological subversion. And that same process, we can actually see that it is not only happening now, but it has been happening. Now, don't forget G. Edward Griffin also talked about this. Now, Yuri was the son of a high-ranking Soviet officer and a member of the Novosti press agency, which was the elite propaganda arm of the KGB. Now, one of his assignments was to accompany journalists visiting the Soviet Union to make sure they did not discover the truth about Soviet life. Again, to make sure they did not discover the truth about Soviet life. How do you do that? You put walls around the truth, making it impenetrable, making it impossible to impregnate. After becoming delusioned with the system, he defected and moved to America. Now, in this interview conducted by G. Edward Griffin, Mr. Bezmenov explains the steps used by the USSR to achieve ideological subversion, a long-term process to change the masses' perception of reality to such an extent that despite the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interest of defending themselves, defending their families, or defending their community, or even defending their country. Today, the globalist elite is using a more sophisticated version of the process described by Bezmenov. However, the basic principles remain identical, and they're unfolding right now. What are these 4 stages of ideological subversion? Number 1 is demoralization. Educate an entire generation in Marxist ideology. Demoralization. Educate an entire generation in Marxist ideology. Why would you want to do that? Because if you give them the Marxist ideology, it has been proven and shown that they are willing to accept the socialist, communist, fascist political system, government system that goes with a Marxist ideology. What is the second point? Destabilization. You destabilize the economy. You destabilize through foreign relations. You destabilize through defense systems. Have we not been seeing that as well over the past 30 years, 40 years really now? I'm sorry, almost 40 years. The third stage was crisis. Violent change of power, violent change of structure, violent change of the economy. Is that not what we're going through right now? And then the final stage is normalization, a period of stability until the next cycle reaches crisis point. Normalization. What has been the catchphrase? Welcome to the new normal. The new normal, the new normal, the new normal. Everywhere you turn, the new normal, the new normal. And they've been getting celebrity after celebrity. They've been marching celebrity after celebrity. Not just any celebrity, but the ones that you hold dearest, like Morgan Freeman, who's like the grandfather, who's like the uncle, who's the father figure. They've been parading him up there, telling everybody to mask up. Mask up, America. I wear a mask to protect you. You wear a mask to protect me. Have y'all seen that commercial? You need to understand this. All right. Now, if one looks at the drastic and radical shift of the public discourse in the US and across the Western world in the past 20, 30, 40 years, one can easily realize that a sophisticated form of psychological warfare has been, and is now taking place. As far as demoralization, it has been happening for at least 2 decades and went into full gear in the past 10 years. All right? 10, a decade. Okay? The elite's agenda is being drilled into our minds, drilled into the minds of the youth through entertainment, education, the news, and social media on a daily 24-hour rotation basis. The youth is now being demoralized in every way possible, from being confused about one's own gender to turning against one's own country. How about destabilization? In this phase, Bezmenov mentions economy, foreign relations, and defense systems, with the devastating effects of COVID lockdowns on the economy combined with civil unrest of the past few months, fueled by paid agents. One can safely conclude that the U.S. is currently being destabilized. Crisis and normalization. This cycle happens over and over again. A crisis is introduced to society. 9/11, 2008, mortgage crisis, lockdown crisis, creating depression because of a scammed pandemic called COVID-19, which is causing panic and distress across the nation. This crisis can only be resolved through a specific solution that was actually pre-planned all along. Remember, I told you a year ago what I saw when they were bringing in the hardware to prepare for this. The occult elite refers to this process as order out of chaos. Although the Cold War is over, a much more subversive war is happening now through memes, through social media, through YouTube videos. The propaganda reaches the youth without their parents even realizing it. Mass media constantly pushes specific ideas while completely suppressing and censoring opposing viewpoints. More than ever, we must remain alert and vigilant because these things are heating up, and if we let them succeed, well, as Bezmenov concluded himself, you will have nowhere to defect to. Europe is already saying they are not allowing any U.S. citizens into their soil. Now, the economic crisis caused by COVID-19 has created a massive drop in individuality. Notice how everyone has been moving toward groupthink. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, fill in the blank. That should be eye-opening to people who are paying attention, but unfortunately, it is not. Just something to chew on, something to think about as you go into the weekend. Think of where we stand. Where do you stand? Have you been subverted? Have these techniques worked on you? These are eye-opening, soul-searching questions. That's all I got for today. Keeping it brief, keeping it short, because I got to get back to the lab. What I am hoping to do, Lord willing, is when this Sunday's reports go out, it will have the new cryptos on it, as well as the new updated reports with the wording, changing of the wording to make it a little bit more easier to read. All right, so with that being said, remember, bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And I'm out. Everyone have a wonderful weekend. And remember, there's no end of day reports on Friday. So I will see you guys back here Monday morning for pre-market PulseScan. Everyone else, I'll see you in the trading room. Peace.